Hey everybody, how are you guys doing? We are back at Rewriting My Story with Dr. Mondo, and we're in a little bit of a different environment here tonight. Our guest tonight, Tim Kaufman, is coming back, and on his personal page, he shared this, that he's coming back tonight to meet with me and to do another Facebook Live. And, as a result of that, he said, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that I have a therapist who's asking me back for a second go round. So as a result, I said, I got to get out of where we typically film at, and we actually got to go to my office today to really make him feel super uncomfortable. So I allowed Tim to know that I'm going to need the paperwork before we get started today. Now, in reality, obviously this is not therapy, but this hopefully is a really different conversation than you've ever heard before about weight loss and about weight loss transformations. And, I was just so excited tonight to have not just Tim, but his wife, Heather Kaufman, back. If you guys tuned in for, I think it was our 5th episode that we had, those two just absolutely did so well. They absolutely knocked it out of the park. Their vulnerability, their honesty, getting a chance to see them interact as a couple, to see what it was like, for a couple to go through a weight loss transformation. They've experienced both parts of one, going through a weight loss transformation when your partner isn't quite ready to go through one. Tim started before Heather started losing weight. And so Heather was kind of watching it all transpire. And then at a certain point, Heather jumped in too. And now they're doing the life together. And so there was such a beautiful story that was being told about that. There was also hardships that were being told. Tim had lots of really honest moments about his story that I know he has shared before, but the depths to which he shared it were actually just so really powerful. So it got a lot of people to message me and ask, can we get these guys back on? And I'm so glad that tonight we have them back on for tonight's broadcast. And tonight's broadcast is going to be, because it's their second time back, you've heard their story, and if you haven't heard it in depth and entirety, go watch the previous episode. John Gomez, our moderator, he will drop that link in there for you. You can watch it at a later time. But tonight's going to be a little different in that we're going to have a follow-up conversation, which I'm so excited about. The follow-up conversation that we're going to have tonight is going to be a carryover from that conversation, but it's also going to be specific to some topics that are near and dear to both Tim and Heather's hearts. I'm going to have them introduce those topics here in a minute, because I know that Tim is ready for the beginning of his therapy session. I'm going to do air quotes, therapy session right now. And seeing people from all over the country. It looks like people even from Australia. We always get some people from Australia joining in. So we thank all of you guys. If you guys are here right now, throw us a like, throw us a heart button. I always forget to encourage these things, but honestly, we see this stuff and it always shows up. Share this if you like this. Do whatever you can to get the word out there. And here we go. This is now not just an individual session, it's a couples therapy session. So thank you guys for joining me here in my office.
I knew there was a catch here somewhere.
I know you might be taking layers off now. You're sweating. No, good to have you guys back. How you guys been?
Good. And you're a little bit more busy than you were last time we talked, huh?
Yeah, man. You guys remember what that was like. People, do you remember what it was like when you had newborn kids?
No.
Yes.
That's what I don't know if it's like a dad thing, but every time that comes up, the dads are like, no, I don't remember. It was all blur. And mom's like, I remember every moment of it. So you remember it, Heather?
Yep.
You do, yeah. My wife's like, oh, I remember.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason,
what if all the chaos, it just gets worse.
That's great, thank you.
I'm not even kidding.
So now it's a reverse therapy session for me, Tim. Okay, I don't want to know. I'm just my reframe is I keep saying I like chaos. I like to be busy, but truly, man, if I wasn't plant-based, I don't know how people do it, because this energy that you get from eating this way. Not to get all evangelical about plant-based, but I'm serious. I'm just like, I don't know how you could do it without having that extra energy pack on you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, I know that you know, we can go a lot of different directions with tonight, but there's a couple topics you guys really wanted to talk about, and I loved your topics. So I know the way we're going to do tonight is Tim, you're going to start off, and you're going to talk about your topic. Um, Heather will come back and join us in a little bit, and she'll talk about her topic too. But can you guys just tell me, first of all, what is the topics that you want to discuss tonight, so our viewers can be aware of that? And then number two, why is that on your heart? Why is that relevant?
Do you want to go first?
Sure. My thing is wanted to talk about how people with the scale and our health and how everybody uses the scale. They look to the scale instead of looking at their health. And
Yes.
I wanted to talk, about how there's cheat days and also how there isn't cheat days, but how people use food as a reward too.
Okay,
And
so
that they
talking
shouldn't.
about now again, and as they should, and how that's key to long-term success. I'm sure you'll touch on. So again, folks, if that's something that you just heard from Heather and you relate to that, which I'm hitting the like button right now, because hit like, hit wow, hit whatever. Just let us know that that's something that you can resonate with. Using the scale as the main measurement or the only measurement for your success in your health journey, and what kind of implications that can have. And then, like she mentioned, how that involves cheating or cheat meals, and what that does long term to you. So that is going to be awesome. We could spend 2 hours on it, but we're somehow going to cram it into like a 30-40 minute little window. And then also, Tim, you had a topic too that you wanted to discuss.
Yeah, my first topic is why you had me back.
So, well, your psychological assessment came back, and there were some concerns. So, I'm just joking. No, why I had you back? Are you really asking me that, or are you just joking with me?
Well, there's a lot of cool stories out there. So this honestly, I was totally in my comfort zone until about 10 minutes ago.
Really?
I'll probably be in trouble for saying this, but Heather's like, can you just go back on our other video? I want to see what I was wearing so I don't wear the same thing. And so,
now you're definitely in trouble. Yep.
Yeah, probably. That's all right though. We'll get over it.
Okay.
That we were on, and I actually took time, which I don't usually do this, and I wrote a little outline of a couple things that I wanted to talk about. And what I found out is when I went back and looked at the first one, like I pretty much covered everything, but we can unpack it a little bit. Which is cool because I get so almost robotic about telling my story. So this is kind of nice,
Yeah, I would say, to sincerely answer your question of why I had you back, just the overwhelming feedback. I mean, I get great feedback from everyone that's been on the show. But I just had some really overwhelming feedback about you guys. People really enjoyed your story. They resonated with it. I think it's in part because you guys have so many different things. Like you have the marriage thing, you have the one partner who's not losing while the other is. You have you have the disease stuff. You have, there's so much different stuff that are elements, the plant-based stuff. So I think you touch on a lot of different elements. But too, I mean, like in our conversation, it was like, again, we need a follow-up because we need to just continue this conversation. So wherever it goes today is good. And one thing I'll tell you is that I remember every time that I ever used to do anything, whether it was when I was a kid, I had a sports show, and then I would do public speaking, or I used to script everything out. I don't know if you're like this, but I used to script everything out like to the T. And then I would go do it, and the majority of the time I'd look back and I'd be like, I didn't even look at my notes hardly ever, And so it was almost like the act of doing it was part of my ritual of preparing. And then eventually what I got in the habit of like now is just like almost the excitement and nervousness of where is this going to go? I have no clue where it's going to go, but I know it's going to be cool. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm glad that you don't have lots of plans for tonight. And don't worry,
Well,
I'm not going to take you into weird,
Well, I teach for a living, so.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So this is what I do for a living. So I'm used to being on the fly, and actually I do better when I don't have plans. So I
there
just
you
know.
go.
But so what I'm really interested in, and what I'm kind of passionate about is, I work with people. I don't have a degree in psychology or anything. I did take some psychology classes you know, as it relates to education and exceptional education, how the brain works and that kind of thing. But my father always told me, he goes, you can learn something from everyone. And it might be what to do, but more likely it's what not to do. And so I like to try to get something out of everyone. And you know, I learn more from my failures than I do my successes. So that said, I get a ton of people, whether it's my classes or our classes that we teach. I can't keep up with the amount of messages and emails and stuff that I get, but I see a lot of people like go, you know, full on into plant-based, and 2 months later, they just kind of fizzled out. So I try to figure out why, and if I can figure out why, that helps me and not only myself but my classes. So two things that really interest me: how does somebody, you know, change their lifestyle, and then the other thing is once they change their lifestyle, why do so many people fall out of it? You know, and that's a very interesting topic for me, and I think I have some of it kind of like, let's put it this way: I don't have it figured out. But I see a lot of patterns that happen. So I would like to talk about those.
And I want to see what patterns you're noticing. And I want to, that's a awesome. I want to dive right in, because I know that, and again, if that stuff's relevant to you, essentially, you know, let's put this in context. If you feel like you know what to do, but you struggle to do what you know you need to do, then maybe throw us a wow, throw us a like. Give this video a share, and comment below with some of your own particular instances of that. And did you overcome it at a certain point, right? Like you know, I know you guys have a story of being able to find that groove and find your way into change where it's stuck. It is fascinating. But if you've experienced that or are experiencing the struggle, I want to be really clear. And we said this before we got on. Tim and I were talking. Like this is a place to inspire you. John Gomez, our moderator, just put in an image. If you want to see some before and afters of Tim or of Heather, they're out there. You know, we get it, right? We speak the language. We speak the language of health, but we also speak the language of what it was like to be unhealthy. And so if you right now are feeling hopeless or just feeling like there's no motivation to get going, we hope tonight can help you get going. It's not to shame you, it's to inspire you. So with that, let's dive in. Let's dive right in.
All right. Heather's gonna take off for a little bit because she said she has to listen to me talk all day. So
I know that's
we'll
what
give her a break.
I know. My wife says the same stuff. Heather, what are you gonna do when you're in the other room? You gonna watch TV or something?
She can. Yeah, probably. Actually, she's probably watching my soup. We are actually getting prepared for a storm.
Soup. What kind of?
Yeah, we're getting prepared for a storm here. We just got a notice from the electric company and stuff to be prepared that the power is going to go out, and it's going to get pretty nasty here. So,
jeez, that's like, I mean, I'm in California, Tim. I don't even know what that, like, people would freak out if we got those messages. We would.
So we were, you know, I thought it was super warm because it's like almost 40 degrees. So we were shorts and t-shirt weather. But now the wind's going to pick up, it's going to rain, and now it's going to snow again. So we have a very long winter this year.
Yeah, man. And again, like, I won't tell you what it's like out here because you're just going to be frustrated with
I like the cold. I'm a fan. It's been a long winter.
You're running out in the cold, and okay, again, I know we can go out, but again, like, there's a big difference, and I think I admire you when I see these posts. I'm just like, geez, you're out there, you're putting in mileage, but you're doing it like next to a frozen over lake. You know, I'm just like, wow, that's incredible.
And frozen mustache too, yeah. So
frozen over mustache and lake, yeah.
Yeah, I would rather do that than run in the heat, but that's just me. So.
No, I'm with you on that part too. So tell me, you know, again, like, what are you noticing? And I'm gonna tee this back up. What I hear you saying, and this is something that, you know, I spent quite a bit of time with my dissertation looking at, is the people that are successful, what are they doing differently psychologically? And I find that I'm always gathering more research because that question is never solidified, right? So what have you found in your own experience, both in your life and then being involved in helping other people inspire to be changed in their own behavior? What have you found to be some things that you're just noticing about change and why it's hard, or why people revert back?
Well, there's certain things that are similar for success and certain things that are similar for failure. So I try to, like in my mind, I try to collect all that and then
Yeah.
look for, the majority. Like, obviously there's going to be outliers everywhere.
Yep.
And for me, the biggest thing is, and I wrote about this a couple of years ago, I don't like it. If you get in your head, like everyone knows what they do. I think we actually touched on this last time. This is all stuff we kind of know, like even with the plant-based thing. And I believe if people search out how to be healthy, with regard to nutrition, all the roads are going to end up back at plant-based. Pretty much whatever path you take, whether it's anti-inflammatory, whether it's food for medicine, whether it's caloric density, whatever it is, if you're focused on health, it's all going to lead to plant-based, like no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, like we also know that change, it can't be temporary. Like it has to be a lifestyle. And that's like the buzz thing out there. Change is a lifestyle. Well, no one can change your lifestyle. No one can wake up one day and just say, today I want to change my lifestyle. In the circles that I'm in, the people that I meet, the people that I work with in the classes, like I can't just say, okay, raise your hand if you want to change your lifestyle. If everyone raises their hands, I can close my books and go home because it's done.
Yeah. We get that, but how do we do that? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem. We need to stop trying to do that. We need to stop trying to say, I want to change my lifestyle. Like it has to be a lifestyle change, I get that. But if you focus on a lifestyle change, 9 out of 10 times, I'm totally making it up, you're just going to quit. Because it's overwhelming. It's crazy overwhelming to think that every aspect of my life has to change. If where I am now, if I look back to my old 400-pound self, sitting on the couch, and you said to me, okay, you're going to go run a 50-mile race with EDS, you're going to take 2 weeks off and then run a 33-mile race, that's asinine. Like that's totally ridiculous.
Well, and how overwhelmed would you have been? Like you point out, like if someone would have said you need to change your lifestyle, and you need to become a runner, and you need to become an ultra guy, and you need to become, like, yeah, that would have been super overwhelming for you to hear that.
It would have been beyond overwhelming. It would have been like, no, that does not interest me. Like
Right.
it doesn't interest me at all.
The journey got you there, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. The key is not this whole, I need to change my lifestyle. That has to happen, but what you need to do is start with simple, small choices. Like just realize that the lifestyle change is going to come from habits, and the habits are going to come from daily choices. And when you break it down, I mean, it's like what we do when we teach, right? Like when we chunk stuff up. It's not this giant assessment. It's all the little steps that take to get you there. And the thing is, like waking up in the morning and making a choice between I want to have a bowl of oatmeal or I'm going to stop for fast food. You don't see that as a lifestyle change, but that one decision made repeatedly every single day, you'll turn around and be like, holy crap, my life changed, and I didn't even realize what was happening. I was just making one decision at a time. And I think that's a huge one. Not trying to change your lifestyle, trying to change habits along the way.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think in essence, it's almost a little bit of a matrix mind. It messes with your mind. There's some paradoxical stuff going in there in that sense that you want to focus on just the present moment and the choices you're making and not make it bigger than that. I totally agree with that. And then in a sense, you also want to see how your present choices are going to impact. Like just focus on putting the right foot in front of the left foot, but know that if you continue to do that, it is going to lead to something potentially greater, but don't even worry about that yet, because that's going to seem too overwhelming. Like, was there a certain point for you where you always like put one foot in front of the other, or was there a certain point where you started looking at like, okay, I want to start running. One day I have aspirations of doing the hikes and getting a dog to have hikes with, like, yeah, or were you one foot in front of the other for every stage of your change process?
Probably more one foot in front of the other, which is actually one of the points. It's actually my first point that I wanted to talk about, is focus. And it's another one of those cliche words, like you got to have a why, like, and it's one of those things that everyone says, well, find your why and you can do anything. And
Sure.
well, that's true. We never talk about the rest of that. So my why, and I think this is another big problem. So basically I have four things that I think either boot people out of a sustainable life change or keep people in. And my first one is focus. Finding your why, but there's a part B to that. Your why isn't always going, your first why is not going to be your last why. And if it is, you're going to stop. And here's what I mean by that. For me, and everyone is different. For me, just for an example, my why was to try to live another year, just literally to put space in between funerals. That was
Space
what
in
I was
between
doing.
funerals. That's powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about that last time, and that's part of my story. So literally, I didn't want Heather to have to bury me so soon. So that was my why. My why today has nothing to do with that. I mean, that was years ago. So if I wouldn't change my why, and this is what I think, and again, I'm not an expert. I'm just going by experience and observation.
You are an expert, and keep going. I like what you're saying. Keep going.
If someone's why is to lose 50 pounds, and Heather's going to talk about this more, or if someone's why is they want to run a marathon, or if someone's why is they're going to get married next year and they want to fit in a size blank dress, the why comes, they may or may not reach it, and it's gone. Mm-hmm. And it's so important. This is the way I see it. You're driving on the road and you see a street sign, and you can't really make out what it's saying. And then as you're moving, it kind of comes into focus. Well, if you keep moving, you're going to lose focus again. And you have to pick up something else to focus on. Your focus, if you're moving, is always going to be changing. And it's like that in these journeys. Like my journey will never be done. It will never be done. My why is different, but I'm just as passionate about my why now as I was trying to live another year. So when we tell people they have to find their why, we have to make sure that we tell them you need to find your why, and it needs to be dynamic, right? I mean, if it's for your kids or whatever, or for your health, like a general thing, that's cool and everything. But most of the time, the why is something that's attainable, right? And then once it becomes close to attainable, we need to be setting up another why to focus on.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that I see a lot of people on here. Bethany Steck, I don't know if you're familiar with Bethany and her work. Yeah, she's actually going to be coming up next week on the show, and so we're excited to have her. And she's saying, "Oh my gosh, like there's so much similar thinking that you guys have." And same goes with me. And this is where, we all, I think, my goal at least is to not have necessarily unique thought, but collective thought, like to meet more people and go, wow, the way you say it, you're packaging it different, but you're saying something similar to what I've heard before, because I think truth repeats itself. Basically what I hear you saying is, in a lot of ways, it's your why is important, yes, but allow it to, and passion about your why is important, but allow that why to evolve, and don't put so much pressure on it. And I want to, like, you're helping. That's really helpful for me and my viewers to hear that, because stage 2 in my program is find your why, or find your anchor for change. And one of the biggest things I get, Tim, is I get people saying, oh man, like I found out because I give them research of like a why that typically holds up over the long term is bigger than just wanting to fit into a dress, or, things you're talking about, reach a number on the scale. But on top of that, it's long-term based, it's legacy based. And then people start going, well, if I don't have kids and I don't know what my legacy is going to be. And I think that, what I try to encourage them is just stick, okay, like, scale back. What is it now? We could always reframe it. But I really like what you said. It's kind of like, this is a journey. And if at the beginning of your journey, your why is that you just don't want to put in the ground and you don't want your wife to bury you, and you can't think past that, let that be where you're at. and have passion for that, but trust that the process may at some point develop a different why for you, and it may change. And what you're also saying is, in fact, it should change, is right? You're saying it should change with time the further you go on.
Right, and like that first thing, like you shouldn't have to look past that. That's what you're hunting down. That's what you're going for. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but you just have to be prepared that as you close in on it, you better have something else set up. And it's another one of those, lifestyle things where it's a habit of always like seeing your goal, but just peeking over the top of it. And it's another one of those things that, like, if you do that enough, it's going to become a habit, and you won't even think about what you're doing. You're just, I'm tapering for a race, and I'm already thinking I got another one on the burner already. Just naturally. So focus.
Focus, and I want to say to that too. I had a client once who was really into Steve Jobs and talked about Steve Jobs, how Steve Jobs was always innovating, and it inspired me to write this. I wrote a little blog article about it, but essentially what I got from that client, the feedback was, and what I equate to the why stuff is, we have to be kind of like Steve Jobs was. It wasn't enough to create the MacBook. There had to be the next thing. It wasn't enough to create the iPod. There had to be the next thing. And, you enjoy the successes of that moment, like really enjoy what you and Heather just did, and doing these races that you guys do together, or to doing the ultra that you did and stuff like that. But also too, to then be able to say, okay, what's next? Because complacency really at times can be part of, I think, getting back to your initial thing of like, why do we revert? Sometimes we hit the goal and then we just don't evolve, like you're saying, and we don't develop a deeper why, and then we just get complacent, and it becomes easy to go back to old things. The motivation, I think someone said this on here, but the motivation becomes different, and the goals become different.
Yeah, and actually you bring up a good point that I didn't even think of when I was writing this stuff down, but I also had this little thing, and again, it's from, watching other people. When, like, for me, a big goal of mine was Ironman, a half Ironman. And I made it, and like that was super cool because I didn't even know how to swim when I signed up for it. So it was like a big deal for me.
So crazy.
But
awesome.
But sometimes I watch people, they set a big goal, they reach the goal, and then they just kind of rest on it. And then you'll just see like everything is centered for weeks and months about this goal. So I actually give myself a time limit. I'm like, I'm allowed to be on cloud 9 for 3 days. And then it's time to move on. And it's not that I'm putting it behind, I am kind of putting it behind me, but I don't want to rest on that, and I want to keep my progress going forward, which is actually point number 2, if you want that.
I do want point number 2. I want to say that's the athlete mentality, by the way. And Kathleen just made a great comment. I want to, before we move on to your next point, if you're a sports fan, you guys probably have seen this, but athletes will do that thing where it's like when they're in the playoffs, it's, well, we got through this round. We're going to enjoy this a little bit. And then we're going to just, we're going to enjoy this tonight. And then we're going to turn the page tomorrow, and we're going to get ready for the next round. And then if they win it all, and they win the Super Bowl, or they win the World Series, whatever it may be, there's that same mindset. We're going to enjoy this for a little bit. But then the off season starts back, and the next grind begins. So yeah, enjoying it's important. It's not that you don't enjoy it, but you have to always fix your eyes, like you were saying, on the next moving object. Kathleen says, my reading about addiction, I dove back into resistance. So before we jump into your next point, we can't talk about change without talking and acknowledging stages of change. And the word resistance, it typically can be used with those stages of change model. That's an important thing, to really point out. In addiction, they say that usually there's the theory of missed attempts. So it takes someone, they say, to get sober on average. Sometimes it happens once, you try to get sober once and you get sober. But they say it can sometimes be 3, 5, 7 times before you get sober. And as a result of that, it's that each of those attempts at getting sober weren't failures. They were, like you were saying earlier, there's something valuable about that. And each time you're moving through the stages of change and getting closer to that change kind of sticking and being concrete, And I think that like what Kathleen mentions here is that I see that with people a lot. They'll jump into a program, or they'll jump into counseling, or they'll jump into plant-based because they know they need to do something, but then they encounter some difficult stuff. And for some people, they're able to stick through that, but others, they kind of retreat back into their shell. It's not to say that there's stories written though. So a lot of them can and do and will come back from that. But I think sometimes we revert back to that previous stage because we're overwhelmed with all of the change and the change process.
Yeah, and we don't want to fail. And so
Yeah,
because we don't want to fail, it's just easier to go back and just stay there because it's comfortable.
yeah,
Um,
totally.
but that goes back to that whole lifestyle versus habits, because it's a lot, you know, you might blow one decision,
Hmm.
right? But it's okay. But that small decision, if you have a victory, that's where you start building up that, you know, that confidence that, like, for example, you know, I want to go run a 5K. Well, I would have fell flat on my face and I would have failed. And then I would have been, yeah, I can't run. But I never did that. I wanted to walk a mile. And then once I got that mile, you know, that made me feel like Superman. Well, what about a mile and a half? So I think it goes back to that whole shifting your mind to say, yeah, I need a lifestyle change, but that's not what I'm after. Today I'm after doing X. And if I accomplish X, tomorrow I know I got that in my tool belt and I can accomplish X plus one.
Love it. Yep, you got to
Yeah.
stay grounded in that perspective of just moment by moment. Yeah, I love it. What's your next point that you're going to hit?
Okay, so the next one, which I think is a huge part of failure. I hate talking about failure, but we got to look at it. It's maintenance. Like I hear this one all the time, maintenance. So this may or may not tick people off, but anybody can lose weight. Like I mean, people lose weight in all sort of ways. There's a ton of different ways to lose weight. Anybody can lose weight. And I think statistically, I don't have the statistics, but most people can be successful over a short period of time to lose weight. But then they end up putting everything back on. Most people put it back on with change. And I think one of the problems is they have a goal of losing 30 pounds. They get to the 30 pounds, and then for some reason, whatever the program they're in or whatever, they go into this maintenance. So I'm maintaining. And I think that is a huge, huge mistake. I
You think it's a
lost
mistake? Yeah, why? Yeah,
totally. I lost 200 pounds. I can tell you I will never go into maintenance. I'll never get there. I will never get there because this is the thing. This, in my opinion, we use health, lifestyle, whatever it is, we kind of disconnect it from life. And we talk about it in ways that we get to a point and we stop. So we want to be whatever X amount of weight, and I'm not talking about weight loss, but I'm really talking about health when I talk about this. We should always be tweaking to try to get healthier. You mean you can't ever be 100%. You always have more to learn. You always have bigger goals, and the only place we do that, like the only time I ever hear like moderation and maintenance is with food. Like no one uses it for anything that matters in life to them. Like no one says, I want a relationship with my spouse and I just want to maintain. Like I just want to plateau and just stay there.
Right.
Musical instruments. No one says, okay, I want to play the guitar. I want to get to a point where I can play this song and then I want to maintain. You know, all through life we do this. We don't want to have a relationship with our kids. And you know what? I feel good. I called my son this week. Let's just hang there. Let's just maintain it. But for some reason we do this with food and health, and this is like a big deal. Like I get kind of.
I was going to say, Tim, sorry to cut you, but just as you were saying that, I was thinking, do you think that's a byproduct again? And that's going to segue into what Heather will talk about too tonight. But the fact maintenance is a word that we think of and we associate with weight. Is that partly that we're thinking like we think maintenance, like you said, maintenance and health, like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. That's what you're talking about is maintenance and health doesn't make sense. Maintenance and weight. Now, we may not agree with that, but okay, now I can see how people go down that road. I think you and I agree that's not a good way of looking at it. But yeah, this whole maintenance idea with health, no one thinks of their health, or we shouldn't think of our health like that.
No, or moderation is another thing. Like you're never like moderately faithful to your spouse. You don't moderately love your
Ah,
children.
that's a good point. Good point.
Um, but for some reason we get away with talking about food like that. Like and I really think that it's maybe even a subconscious like disconnect to justify poor behavior. Like that's what I think it is. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. Yeah, no, I do.
Um,
I absolutely do.
So my point for maintenance is there's no middle ground. You're either moving forward or you're moving backward. And that moving forward it has nothing to do with weight loss, but it has everything to do with getting more and more education. There's so much information out there that's just free. I mean, you
Yep.
can literally get the same education a doctor gets just
Hmm.
for free on the internet.
On YouTube, on, yeah, the various programs that are
Yeah.
out there. Yeah.
And it's all out there and it's all yours. And so instead of maintaining, let's progress, let's learn more, let's get better at what we're already good at. And let's this constant progression of, finding something we should be passionate about our health. And we should continuously be moving forward, to find a better way to live and a better lifestyle.
And I know that you got probably another point to move to, but I just want to say this. Uh, all of that is the life support system to it is your community, right? Like, I know you and I could go off probably about that forever, but you have to have like-minded people on the journey with you, or you have to collect them along the way as you move and say, hey, you're
Right.
focused on the same sort of, because if you don't, I'll tell you, it's tough to be a lone ranger. But when you're in community with people that are thinking this way, behaving this way, it's inspiring consistently to be iron sharpens iron. Now we're, of course,
Right.
there's so many parallels here, but yeah, I think that the community stuff's so vital.
That's point number 3. Stay plugged
Oh,
into
really?
community.
Wow.
Yeah, there you see,
Okay.
you're so good at this.
No, man, keep going, keep going. Tell me more. Tell me more. Yeah,
Yeah, so focus, maintenance, and then the next thing I have jotted down is community.
yes.
Um, I had none. I had no community. And looking back, it might have been a good thing for me because I would have been overwhelmed because I had no clue what I was doing.
At the
Um,
beginning, you would have been overwhelmed if like someone was like, okay, and find community and think about running your marathon.
no, no, because I would have been in a community with a bunch of vegans, and I didn't even know what that meant. Like I
Who would
was a
you have been in
hunter. Like
community with?
none of this made sense. What my community honestly was Forks Over Knives. That's what I had, and I had Joe Cross's "Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead," and I don't know if I said it on your show, but um, I was in Michigan doing a presentation, and I said, if Joe Cross, because I showed a picture of these vegetables going in the juicer and stuff, and I said, if Joe Cross would have been collecting raccoon poop and putting it in a juicer, I would be totally eating raccoon poop right now. Because I didn't care what he did. I just wanted what he had. It didn't matter how he got there. I just wanted to do what he did. Um, so looking back for me, and that's a very personal thing, it was probably better I didn't know about community. I thought I was the only person in the world until I met Josh LaJaunie, which was
Really?
kind of by a fluke. Yeah, I heard him on Rich Roll podcast. Well, that's kind of a cool story. I'll keep it super short. Um, my family was getting sick of me posting my food all the time, my plant-based food, because I was super excited. And so I decided, with my family's help, that I should set up a public page, that's the Fat Man Rants page. And so the one family member that actually convinced me to do it, because I'd get eye rolls every time I talk about kale, he was actually my first follower on my page.
That's
But
awesome.
so
And
it
now,
was
how many followers do you have
yeah,
now on there? A lot, right?
yeah, like 11,000 or something.
That's crazy to think about the first. Keep going, yeah.
Yeah, but so I just did it like to just get like 100 people that were actually, cared about what I ate. And what happened was this lady, she messaged me, like my first message I ever got. She said, my son weighs 400 pounds. He locked himself in a room and I think he's going to commit suicide. And
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
like,
What'd you do with that?
I'm still like 300 pounds. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. I just set this page up. and put like a before and what would have been during picture. And I panicked, and I had just listened to Josh LaJaunie on Rich's podcast, and I'm like, I wonder if this guy's real. So I typed him up on Facebook, and there he was, and I'm like, man, looks like the same guy. And so I messaged him.
And you meant is he real, like, because you just couldn't believe it, or what?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's not Rich Roll. Like this, in my mind, like I had no idea who he was. I just heard a story. His story actually was shockingly similar to me, only he's down south, I'm up north, but, he lives in the swamps and I'm a redneck. So, but the story really, really hit me, but I needed help. Like I didn't know what to do. Like I was stayed up all night, like worrying about this kid. And so I messaged him, and within minutes we were on the phone for over an hour.
Really?
Yeah, and he got my address. He was going to send me the shoes, like literally right off his feet. And we just kind of connected, and that was the first time, and I've been plant-based for over a year, or maybe even more, maybe 2 years. And I didn't know there was anyone else like me. Like I didn't even know what plant-based was. I just knew what I had from Forks Over Knives and the couple books that I had read. So we kind of got connected, and then, we became pretty good friends. And so that's kind of how my community started. And then, I started realizing that there's groups out there and stuff like that. So, and then my community kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger.
I'm blown away though. That's so cool. Like I never knew that about you, and I learned. I still have never had a chance. You're gonna have to connect me with Josh at some point. I hear about Josh. Almost everyone that comes on here's got a Josh story. So I'm learning a lot about him. But how amazing, just in the midst of his life and things. I bet like that. What a defining moment in your journey that was, that he took the time to do that, right?
Yeah, for sure. He's a super, super cool guy. And like I say, we've gotten to be pretty close. Even, we're both kind of busy, and we don't like talk like we used to. But he's got my back, I got his, and it's a super cool. And then we have the Missing Chins too, which is a pretty close group of guys.
Tell people behind like the scenes, like if they probably heard that you guys were on television, Good Morning America, things like that. Like, yeah. So tell people more about that.
Yeah. So I don't know how many people lost 200 pounds and run and plant-based. Like there's actually more than you think. But it's very hard to go talk to an everyday person and explain to them, about skin and about, one of the things that I don't know if I avoid it, but it's not something that I would confront someone with like right out of the gate. But you get this idea of what you should look like after you lose 200 pounds. And, I work hard. I didn't used to work. Losing the weight, I think, I didn't do a whole lot of fitness type stuff, and nothing to, compared to what I do now. But I had this idea what I should look like lifting weights and being able to deadlift 500 pounds and, run 50 miles. I had this idea, this image that, I worked so hard, and then I look in the mirror and it's like, it's terrible. I have so much skin, and I'm never going to look normal. Like, you will always know that I used to weigh 400 pounds. No matter what I do, I have no interest in surgery, but even if I got surgery, you will always see that something's different about me. So we get this image of...
Where are you at with that now personally? Like, it sounds like you've accepted that, or yeah.
Yeah, you don't have a choice. You accept it, but at the same time, there's certain things, I'm working to get leaner and leaner and leaner, and, my arms are looking like super ripped, and then, somebody will get a shot of me like walking off stage, and you see this, big flap of skin over my belt, and, it bothers me, but I also realize that it could be a lot worse. When I take a pair of 52 pants up next to my 34 pants, there's a lot of extra material, and I don't have that much extra skin,
Wow, that's just amazing. I mean, and in that community, I kind of what I'm hearing you going with this too is like they speak the language. We talk about that in the
We
program a
get
little
it.
bit. Yeah, you get it.
Yeah,
Like there's
we
not a
get
whole
it.
lot of explaining. It's just like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and we get everyone says, well, most of us say, I would never get surgery, but in the back of your mind, that's always like, should I? I mean, I feel like I'm an old guy, and but in the back of your mind, it's like, would that make me feel better about myself, or is it something that I have to look in the mirror and say it's okay? And I know this sounds corny or whatever, but it's something I got to
That's not at
practice. It
all,
say
man. No.
that I'm not perfect, but it's okay. It's still good. So yeah, we talk about a lot of stuff, and there's from the psychological standpoint, a lot of us, Anthony's 10, 12 years out. I'm coming up on 6. Josh has been at this a long time too. But for some reason, in the back of your mind, no matter how you have this thing buttoned down, there's that little thing in the back of your mind that you hear about people gaining all the weight back. And I know, like, I would rather die. Like, I know I would rather die than go back. But there's still that little thing in your head that some days you wake up and it's like, is this road done? Like, is it going to end today? And again, that's something that I couldn't just talk to anyone about, but we go into the chins and we have bad days, and a lot of us have a lot of pressure that's bigger than ourselves. I mean, when I go somewhere, I have to be careful, every step I take because people are watching me. And it's not like I'm not trying to be a scam, but it's just a lot of extra pressure. So it's a place where we can take a time out from everybody and like we can talk about stuff that we normally, sometimes it's frustrating. Sometimes it's frustrating to see, a family member eating the way, that they know they shouldn't eat when they've seen you go through all this. Like, and it's a place we vent. It's a place we support each other. We inspire, we push each other. It's it's a super cool community. And it's huge. It's so important.
How do people get in this community? They just have to like know someone that's in the community.
Yeah. And the thing that drives me the most nuts is, someone saying my husband needs to be in there. Like, I hate that. Like, your husband needs to do this. So, yeah, basically it's like secret group. So you can't even find it. You got to like request in. And honestly, I don't do a lot of that. I kind of leave it, for Josh, unless I know somebody really well. Because it's a great group for us to have each other, but then we bring new people into kind of that are wanting to go down the same road, and so we help a lot of people too.
Yeah, you have to be really selective, I imagine, about that. But I just think that that's so cool. I mean, that is what the research shows, whether it's weight loss and health, whether it's addiction, no matter what it is, change. And that kind of brings us back to the beginning of this conversation, which is in order to change, this is a vital part, is having that community and that support around you. People that get it. You don't want to have to sit there. There are some people, I always say there's some people that just will not understand what this struggle is about. They will not understand half of what you just said in a really empathetic sort of way because they haven't lived it. But for the people in your community that speak that language, you don't have to even say many words. They just get it because they've lived it. And that's so vital. So vital.
Well, there's a flip part of that too. So because the community, which, it wasn't a plug for the chins, but community for me is more, there's a ton of groups out there from, the Engine 2 7-day challenge to McDougall. I mean, there's a ton of them out there, and I think they all have their own. I'm in small groups and I'm in bigger groups. In some groups, I just like to sit and kind of like watch what people say. Other groups, I'm super active in. So those are super important, and it's also if you can find like real people close in your community, and there's probably more than you think. Mm-hmm. But I have jotted down, I'm like, to stay plugged into the community for education, number one. There's a lot of local events that go on that I would never know about if I wasn't plugged into a community. The excitement, especially you get new people, they kind of rekindle everything because they get really, we kind of get bored with, we know what to do. We eat the potatoes, eat the kale, eat the beans. Then you get somebody that's like brand new and like they kind of recharge the whole group, Knowledge is another one, everyone's kind of learning together. And that general like positive feeling that stuff is all contagious. But by the same token, it works the complete opposite too in your normal life, with your coworkers and much your family and friends. They're always the moderation, like, really live a little bit. You might get hit by a bus tomorrow. You're going to hear this stuff all the time, all this kind of negative.
Yeah.
And so it kind of gives you that safe place when you can go to the community and know that there's other people doing this every day, just like you doing it. It kind of reinforces, all right, I'm not really on my own. And even I'm going to have a few people at work or whatever, leave a donut in, the lunchroom or something and put my name on it, whatever. At least you know that there's other people going through the same thing. And you have somebody to talk to.
You're not alone. You're in this together. I know time-wise, grab Heather if you get a chance. I know she's watching your soup. But I want to tie this point back. We'll grab her and get her on. I just went. How many of you guys out there went through this even over Easter weekend? I know I went through it. When you go spend time with family and family, like my family, we get at each other. We always are joking about something with each other. But it's tough because when you walk into that environment, like you want to be able to make it out with, you want to be able to make it out knowing that you stuck to what you wanted to do in terms of your eating stuff. But at the same time, you also feel kind of like the odd one out because you're having to kind of sit to the side and eat something different. So I think there's probably a lot of us that can relate to that. If anyone can relate to that, share your stories below. But again, like I noticed that, like even when I got back from my family trip, I loved my family, spending time with the family, but there was that part of that kind of just wears on you a little bit. And to be able to reach out to like a friend of mine, Daniel, who does amazing video work for me, and he's also been plant-based 3 years, to be able to reach out to him and he'd be like, yep, I went somewhere and they didn't have one thing we could eat. So I said, well, you should have ate before you went. And he said, no, I did. And, and just being able to talk about that, having community around that is so huge. So great points.
Yeah.
Can you just
I just have one more super.
Yeah.
I have one more. I have the fourth point that's super quick. And I think this is just as important as community. And that's giving back. And I know, again, these all sound so cliche-ish, but they are critical. Giving back is probably the easiest way to feel happy, like to feel like you're actually doing something good. People, whether you're struggling with depression or just a bad day, helping people can help you so much. And I'm not meaning that in a selfish way. When you're legitimately out there to make a difference, it changes your. See other people, coming up the same path that you came and helping them. It is like the most amazing thing. And it's another thing that's contagious. The bottom line is, like, overall for our plant-based community, we're not going to get this, advertising spots on TV. There's going to be no carrot company that has these $1 million grants to get the message out. So it's us. And if you think about how powerful it is, if we just get 3 people, like if we can talk to 3 people, help them out, and those 3 people can go help 3 people. I mean, when you think about, like, exponentially how many people you can help just by everyone just helping someone else, it's like, it's unbelievable. So sometimes I get tired. I know you get tired teaching class. Like, I teach all day and then I got to go teach cooking classes. Like, I'm not being mean, but the last thing on my mind 2 years ago was to stand in a room with sewing machines and teach people how to make rice. But I realized the value, and when you have someone that's sitting in your class that hasn't said a word in 6 weeks, and they come up to you at the end. I'm gonna start, jeepers. See what happens when you bring her in. They come up to you at the end and they shake your hand. You never even heard this dude say a word, and they're like, "You saved my life." It's like, because I showed you how to make rice. Like, it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing to give back. So recap, focus.
Love it, man.
Remember
Love
that
it.
focus is always going to
Yes.
change.
Mhm.
Maintenance, get rid of it. Moderation, get rid of it. We don't need any of that. Things we're passionate about, we always move forward, and we don't need to moderate anything that we're passionate about.
Love it.
Third, community, stay plugged in, and don't be taking from the community all the time. It's important to take stuff from, but give back. Do your part and help in the community.
That's
And that
good,
just
man.
goes to give back and give. And you know what? The more, you think you're limited on what you can give, and it seems to me like the more you give, like the more you're able to give. So there's my 4 things.
I love it. I love it. And I would call that, paying it forward. And I'm in 100% agreement. Heather, anything to add to those points that you just heard? I know you just joined us on there. You're hearing your husband. Oh, well, maybe you're not hearing your husband. Yeah, you are hearing your husband. You're not hearing me.
Just a
But
second.
anyway, I was going to say, hey, Heather, anything for you to add to any of that before we transition into what I know you wanted to share in the rest of our time? Yeah, anything to add to that?
I think he pretty much covered everything that, I would say the same thing as him. He covered it well.
He covered it, and you guys
I don't know. He does
Yeah,
good.
you said about cliches. Cliches are cliches for a reason. Again, it's that recycling of truth. We hear it so many times. That's a good thing. But we all say them differently. And again, in the way you say it, I think, again, is important to be said in your language, Tim, because people are hearing this right now, and maybe they've heard it other places, but it's no longer a cliche. It's stuck with them. It unlocks something in them. Your point about the moderation stuff too, we'll come back, we'll talk about this in the comment section too. But I just think that could be a great one that would start a little bit of debate in a sense. But I agree with you, and I've never agreed on that. I used to be very much in the other camp of believing in the moderation until I got out of the pleasure trap. We're not going to go down that road because that could be a long rabbit hole. So anyway, great stuff. John, maybe if you can just recap a few of those points in there in the comments section. If you guys have questions, keep throwing them out there. Jason said, a quote from Tim, "We don't need to moderate anything we're passionate about." I love that. That's 100%. Yep. If you're passionate about your health, that goes back to what is your motivation? What is your why? And if you're passionate about living life, you're passionate about not being in the grave, then you don't need to moderate that. So Heather, I know in terms of time, we have John, what time is it right now? Is it
7:05?
7:05, okay. Which 9:05. Is this storm coming to get you guys, or what?
We have plenty of time.
Okay. We're up against the storm? Okay.
No, not till tomorrow.
Hopefully our electric will hold up.
Let me settle in then here. I got clients tomorrow, so we'll just settle in. I promised I'd be home for bath time. That's the only thing I'm up against. That'll be here in a little bit. But Heather, jump in real quick because we're gonna shift gears. It's the same topic thread, but different. Again, tell me what it is that you wanted to talk about tonight, and give people a little bit of a preview of that so we can dive in.
Well, about how people are constantly focusing on the scale, on their journeys, how people feel that they should have cheat days, and also how they use food as a reward.
So let's start with the scale stuff. Yeah, this idea of what are your thoughts on the scale? And I'll lead in with this. For me personally, my story with the scale, I'm really extreme with the scale, but not in the way that most people are extreme. I don't weigh myself. Even when I started my plant-based journey, and people go, "How much weight have you lost in the last 7 months?" I don't know. In all honesty, because for me, the scale brought out such an emotional reaction for me that I know that whether it was a good or a bad number on the scale, I reacted and thought about it so much that I obsessed over it to the point that I just said, screw it. It's not, it takes me further away from what this journey is really about, kind of what Tim was talking about, than it does in actually helping me. So I'm pretty scale averse. And that's just me. I know everyone can be different. People who can use that scale and step on it and not have such emotional reactions. But yeah, what are your thoughts about how we should be using the scale as a tool?
Well, for me, I did not use the scale. My main focus has always been about health, and I never, I knew I would be losing weight, but it wasn't like I never set this huge goal that I needed to lose this or that, and I'm glad I didn't, because I didn't want to have to focus on that scale, because I have a lot of friends that they will start off on a journey and they just focus on, well, I need to lose 5 this week, or I need to lose 10 this week, or I need to lose, and they just get so frustrated when they're not losing what they think they should be. And I just, I've talked with them several times and said, you need to make it about your health and not about the scale. It needs to be about your health. You'll see the results, as you continue along, but you need to not worry about that scale. You just need to worry about being healthy, and you need to focus on nutrition.
How did you know, Heather, that you were being successful in your journey without using a scale? Because people will ask that. They'll say, okay, well, you don't use a scale. Like, what were some indicators for you early on that you were on the right track? Yeah, how did you measure success then if you weren't using a scale?
I would, it would be, I don't know, let's just say maybe it was summertime. I honestly don't remember, like, if it was summertime, fall time, whatever it would be. You go and you pull out your clothes, your clothes from the year before, whatever, and I'd, go to put on a shirt that, was one of my favorite shirts, and I'd realize it was, big, and then I'd be like, oh yeah, I did lose weight, and then I would get excited. Okay, yeah, I'm losing weight, but I never focused on that. It was nice to be able to go into smaller clothes, but I just honestly, I just never focused on it. I just want to be healthy, and that's for me. That's what I did. Or you would notice your pant size would be going down. The same thing.
Yeah, so you notice the changes. Justin Lacey's on here, and you guys know Justin?
Oh
yes.
Man, he's awesome. I love using Justin.
Hi, Justin.
I have heard amazing stuff about Justin too. Another guy
that so awesome.
We need to talk and get him on here. Justin says, when I stopped using a scale and focused on optimal health is when I lost around 300 pounds. Oh my God! I mean, those numbers.
Not a typo either.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? That was my key in my journey. So he's totally resonating with that too. And Justin, drop down below. How did you know that you were successful? Obviously, you were seeing, things change in terms of how your clothes fit and stuff like that. But do you think, Heather, that so what are we going to do then to get people to get more on this path of using the scale less, using it at all? What do you propose to people out there? Is it just how can they be successful without using the scale?
I think if they can just, focus on wanting to make sure that if they're having health problems, to focus on that, to be healthier. And if they are, wherever they are in their journey, if they are healthy, to maintain, to keep maintaining, doing what they're doing, and not fall back, and realizing that they're healthy and not wanting to go back and be unhealthy.
And focusing more on the food than the scale. I mean, the whole calorie density nutrition,
Right.
Yeah, so focusing, and again, that stuff, I think the point, again, that you guys are trying to make here, and what I would agree is that the scale takes up so much of your emphasis for most of us, because we live in a weight conscious, weight shaming society where we're all weight, that it's really hard to see the other victories that are happening. Some people want scale victories, but you know, your ability to go an entire week and getting an extra level of greens in, or like my current thing I'm working on is making sure I chew my food, to enough times, because I realize, my gosh, I don't chew enough. Like little things like you can't focus on those things if all you're worried about is some number. And so again, I think
you said exactly what I was just going to say. Like, use the energy that you're going to focus on, freaking out about a number, and freak out about how you're going to get a half pound to a pound of greens in your diet every day. Like, that's where your energy needs to go. And the scale will take care of itself in time.
It will. It absolutely will. Yeah.
And I also noticed, even in my daily routine of working and stuff, things were, I could tell I was breathing a lot easier. I was able to move around and, get up and down stairs quicker too. So, I knew that I was getting, healthier.
Yeah, it's not like you're not gonna just miss, like, what'd you lose, 85 pounds? Mm-hmm. You're not gonna just like not realize you lost 85 pounds. Like,
you're gonna realize it. Yeah,
it's gonna be pretty obvious that and you can feel, you can, like, even now, I'm not gonna say I never get on the scale. Of course I get on the scale. But one of the things that people don't realize is, that especially in the beginning, that first and second week or third week or fourth week, oh, I lost 3 pounds this week, 3 pounds the second week. The fourth week, I actually gained a pound. And like, then you got to tell people, no, you didn't gain a pound. You were probably just really hydrated, and you were probably dehydrated. Like, a gallon of water weighs like 7-8 pounds. I drink a gallon of water a day when I'm really focused on hydration. Like, that's a big fluctuation, and those stupid 3-4 pound fluctuations can kick somebody out. This isn't working. I'm going with another plan.
All right.
And that's the problem.
That's it. And then again, we talk about change and why do we revert? Because we're just so micro focused on these things that just aren't really what long-term change is about. So I'm seeing comments in here, everyone loving this stuff, talking about the scale stuff. What was your next topic that you wanted to talk about though too?
Well, I hate hearing this from people, because it's about having these cheat days. It's it sets people up to fail. Trying to think of a quick thing somebody said. When you go into this, you go into it as 100% of being on this journey, whatever your journey is. But then when you think you get so far into this, well, I can have a cheat day because I did this or I did that. And, you go and you have that cheat, and then you don't feel good. And it's like, why do you want to keep going back doing that, thinking that you can have these cheat days when you're supposed to be committed to this, you've committed to this journey.
You re-excite all
and then you're right.
Yeah, I think
you're starting everything up again. First of all, you're eating the junk, whether it's a piece of pizza or whatever it is, and then the next morning you wake up, you don't feel good, and it's like, why did you do that? You've come so far. Don't have a cheat day. Just stay on your journey.
My coach Sharon McRae is on here. Hey Sharon, and she says, Dr. Clapper says your body is not looking. Who are you cheating when you have a cheat day? And Ashley Cook, who is amazing, and she has all these cool titles that she just joined my team. I just call her my right hand. She says a cheat day turns into a cheat week, and then I get sad and have to start all over. Cheat day is a slippery slope for me. You know what? Again, encompassed in all of that, I think is just so true. I think the key being, and maybe you guys, I imagine, agree, it's like, once you get the pleasure trap stuff, isn't that a game changer, right? To know, like you're saying, you start over. When you what we don't get in that 7 or 10 days of being on and then off, or 6 days or whatever it is, we don't get to feel what it's really like to go, a long period of time where your taste buds are reset, your energy is reset. Once you have that, it feels pretty drastic to have it. Like, to have a cheat day now, I would need you guys would need to be near a medical clinic, right? Because like, if you had a cheat day the way that you used to, like, can you imagine what that would do to your body?
Yeah, even salt. Like even
Hmm.
if I have too much salt, like I
Yeah.
don't feel right. But it's one of those things that I said before where we talk about how the taste buds, they change, and then when we have like our taste buds get all like re-excited, and we have to go through all the withdrawals again. But people don't talk about the flip side of that, and I believe that's another big failure is um, that same like if I go have salt because I try to stay away from salt like 100%. I'm not perfect at it, but if we go to a restaurant, we can't get away from the salt. That re-excites all my taste buds. I'm super thirsty for like a whole day. I feel like a fish out of water. But what people don't talk about, if I go back tomorrow and do the same thing again, the effects are going to be a little less, then a little less, then a little less. Before you know it, I can go right back to full on salt shaker. And that works with dairy, it works with meat, it works with anything. You will get sick. If I had dairy right now, I would probably get violently ill. But
Hmm.
if I would keep going back to it, it wouldn't be, my body would start getting used to the toxins again. I'd start feeling like crap, and it will be my new normal. So it's important to realize that that cheat
Mm.
day is not just setting you up for a one time, like undo what you did yesterday. It can destroy everything. It can be like a domino that just tips the whole pile over.
Hmm.
Yeah, Kathleen
Sorry.
said
That's
it's a trigger day, and Bev said, can you share what your takeaway is regarding the pleasure trap message? I think you just kind of summarized it in that our brain loves pleasure, and basically high fat, high salt, high sugar, high oil, high concentrated calorie dense foods, processed foods, you know, any of those foods that we think of that our body craves, it's our brain is set up to trigger dopamine, and it wants that stuff. And so when we're in that cycle, like you guys are talking about, you just want more and more of it, and your tolerance, as you mentioned too, to it becomes really high, and before you know it, it is a slippery slope. So that's what we're talking about, getting away from. Once you detox from it, you can get out of that pleasure trap, and your taste buds can reset, and your brain can reset, and you're no, all of a sudden, like I said, and maybe you guys can relate to this. The pleasure trap for me is being able to go, like I can cut up food for my son, or if I'm serving, like when I serve at different events I'm at, sometimes there's pizza there and stuff like that, and I'm around all of it, and people are like, "Oh my God, this must be so hard." There's just nothing in my brain that pulls me to it. It's not hard at all, and
Yeah.
that to me is the pleasure
hmm
trap.
Yeah. So I think it's Bev that asked the takeaway. So Doug Law, if you haven't seen it, probably the fastest way to get the information in your head is his TED Talk. Doug
It's really
Lyle's
good.
TED Talk. It's
hmm
awesome. I show it in my classes. But really, the whole thing can be boiled to you can control what your normal is, and you can change your normal.
Mm,
And it doesn't take long to change your normal at all. And it doesn't matter if it's drugs, alcohol, or food. Basically, you're in control of where that normal is. And if your normal is burgers and fries and all these high fat, high dopamine foods, that's where your normal is, and that's where you're going to stay. And if you can just break the cycle for a couple weeks, your new normal will, kale will taste better, potatoes will taste, rice will taste, corn will taste like sweet as candy, and all that,
yeah,
you
it's
know,
crazy.
all that stuff will excite your taste buds almost as much as the processed sugar. Like I've already eaten apples that are almost too sweet for me. Like it's
I
nuts
know
how
what you
that
mean. Yeah,
works.
have you I remember like being like a month in, and I ate like an orange, and I'm like, oh, they spiked this orange with sugar or something, and my wife's like, that's
Yeah.
an orange. I'm like, something's wrong with this orange. It's too sweet. I can't do it. I'm like, what, an orange?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Heather, what was you had another point? All of these are fantastic,
Well,
guys, and I think these. I love how we're jumping around. So keep jump. What was the other point that you wanted to bring up
how,
too?
food is a reward. People, I hear this all
Hmm.
the time. I've been at the gym so many days, and I've been out running so many days. It's kind of along the same line as the, in a way, like the cheat day, but it's, they're saying, well, I've been on this plan for so long, so, and now I'm going to reward myself because I've done this with, they'll take, again, either a cupcake, pizza, that's just what I can think of off the top of my head, and, they'll, they think that they can just reward themselves with that for one day, but, it goes back to the same thing. It's going to start everything up again, and, um, what I wanted people to realize is, don't make food your reward. You know, it can be, you could go out and buy an outfit, you know, a shirt, or there's so many things you can do, you know, sign up for a 5K race or walk. And it goes back to giving, you know, do something for somebody else. Make that your reward, because then, you know, you feel good about yourself.
Yes,
There's so
I think
many other things you can do instead of eating the garbage that's out there. You know, you're on this journey, you want to eat healthy, so do that. And then you can be example for others.
well, and that's the you know Andrew Taylor, SpudFit, said when he was on the last episode, he said, you know, make your food boring and your life exciting, in a sense. And you know what I really appreciate, and that's I think what I hear you saying too, is that first of all, anyone that's listening that's currently in the pleasure trap, this all sounds crazy. So just disclaimer on that, right? Because you're like, oh yeah, those things are going to be as rewarding as a Big Mac or the taqueria food or whatever, pizza. Honestly, just try it. Try getting yourself out of that trap and then start to see. But really though too, yeah, it's a different frame of looking at life. Like what really brings you joy, what really brings you bliss. There are other things that produce dopamine. It's probably going to be different, yeah. But the thing is that you don't have the hangover. Like going to spend quality time with your family, or hiking, or doing some amazing stuff, doing these runs you guys are doing, spending time with your kids, like all of that, that's a dopamine rush too. The only difference is the only thing that's different is that you don't have that hangover after of like feeling like crap. If anything, you're ready to do it again the next day.
And
yeah.
I think it lasts longer. Like I think that feeling like lasts longer. And you know, like like you were saying, the 5K, if you know you do really good or whatever, you know, you've been like solid, put a solid week of dieting in, and then you reward yourself with, you know, 2 pieces of pizza on Saturday. First of all, you're undoing what you worked all week for. You're sabotaging yourself. You're going to feel like crap. You're going to feel like a bit of a failure. Where if you go out and run a 5K, you're going to feel a whole lot better about yourself. And that's something that's going to help your self-esteem, where the pizza's not going to touch that. Like you're going to feel good and it's over and done, just like a drug. That 5K, that's a memory you have for the rest of your life. And we do, like, that's why we leave. I mean, we leave this stuff hanging out. We have bibs all over the house because we like to look at that. You know, those are our accomplishments, and we feel good, and they make us who we are.
And it doesn't have to just be, you know, running. It can be walking too, and it can be other forms of activity, biking too, you know.
Hiking on vacation, whatever. And Heather wouldn't say this, but when people say that they reward themselves with food, I'm like, well, you're not a dog. Like that's what we train our dogs with treats. Like we're supposed to be like a little bit higher thinking than that, you know. Go somewhere nice, go find a park to, you know, go hike, go to the water, do something that is going to benefit you instead of sabotage you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think that was just set up here a minute ago by damaging yourself isn't a reward, Justin Lacey said, and that is truly it. And you know, but to speak to that too, to like Bev is saying, when you're a food addict, as she's saying, when you're a food addict, as I'm recovering from, I can make food a consolation as well. Like when feeling bad or frustrated, turning to food. That's a struggle for me sometimes. And you know, I totally validate that too, Bev. I think, you know, that's the thing is that someone, you know, I think once famously said, you know, we eat for 3 things because, you know, because we're happy, because we're sad, and for nourishment. But often for most of us, it's like, you know, the first 2 until you find that way of eating like we have, where we feel like it truly is for nourishment. But yeah, these are things that again, it might seem like far-fetched stuff, but truly, when you're able to get in that groove and you're out of the pleasure trap and you're experiencing life, you become addicted to feeling good. You become addicted to the experiences, and it's just such a different way of living. Guys, I know we're probably a few more minutes before the bath water will be running, so to speak, at my house. But hey, Heather, was there another one that you had too?
No, that was it. That That was it.
That was awesome. Yeah, all the feedback I've gotten is just this has been really cool because we've been jumping just from different topics that I think a lot of people in general find that they struggle with, or stuff that they have questions about and they're not too sure about. So this has been awesome because you guys both brought different stuff to the table, but we're all talking about the same thing. And by the way, Bev said, by the way, I've lost 90 pounds thus far, going to check out the Pleasure Trap, reverse my diabetes. That is awesome. So that is, see, that's what it's all about.
That is so cool,
Awesome.
Bev. Good for
That
you.
is so cool. Yeah, that's what it's all about. And yeah, if you learn about the Pleasure Trap and you add something like that into all of this, like, wow, like it's just amazing. You guys, what a question that, you know, Sharon mentioned what a power couple you guys are. Talk about like visioning stuff. Is there going to be more opportunities where you guys, you know, share the stage and or share different venues of inspiring people? Do you guys see that your journeys merging in that way of inspiring others together?
They already have,
yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
We did, like, well, we just got back from Michigan. You kind of came up on stage.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
She's getting. This is helping. You know.
It's awesome.
I don't talk as much as Tim.
Yeah, you know, but that's,
So.
I think one of the things I'll say to that is that, yeah, you both have such awesome stories to tell. And it's so rare to have a couple out there who you have such a unique story. So like, yeah, if this is helping at all, like, you guys are welcome to come back whenever. And please do, because it's just awesome. People always I love the conversations we have. But my thing, Heather, is that, yeah, like, some of us naturally, I think, like, I'm probably like Tim in that sense. I can talk and talk and talk and feel comfortable with that. And not that there's not moments where you don't feel totally comfortable, but I think for a lot of people, that is a skill set that we don't realize we just develop the more we're exposed to it. And don't let your comfort level dictate to you what you have to say, because you got some amazing stuff to share, and you shared it the first time and on this time, and you know, you guys both have awesome stuff. So I just want to affirm that. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep getting more exposure, both of you. And we need couples telling their story. My gosh, I mean, like, we need couples out there telling their story. So
And that's
anyway.
the thing, we're so passionate. You know, we found this, and we want to help other people to find this too. And you know,
yes,
it's so hard because you just want to tell that family member, you know, just give it a chance. You know, this will work. Look, it's worked for us, but it gets frustrating when family doesn't jump right on, you know, on board. But it's just something
you know
we're
what,
so
Heather,
passionate about. We want people to be healthy. We don't want people to be sick.
And that's one thing I'll tell you, again, the dynamics of your guys' story is that there was a time when one of you was changing and the other wasn't ready. So, you know, I think you guys can relate to that too. Stick with what you're doing and know that if you keep staying consistent, eventually people might come around on their own time. Which dog is that's barking? Is it the bigger one or the smaller one? Because they're both how big?
140 pounds on the one, and then
Bruce is 93.
93, but he's jacked.
God.
He's solid muscle.
He's jacked.
Yeah.
They can't come on camera before we go like that. Would they knock it over?
No.
Yeah, hold on.
Really?
Get him. Yeah,
She's
I want to see. I love dogs. I love dogs so much. Like, if there was a way for me to roll on the ground right now with them virtually, I'd do it. I'm not joking.
Oh, I forgot I had my phone. I'm thinking I'm on my computer.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna move you.
I just want to see these dogs. I'm excited. This is Bruce?
Yeah.
Oh my
Hey, Brucey,
God.
look up here.
Bruce.
Can you
See that tail wagging?
Can you see him?
Are you barking?
Brucey.
Oh my
Hi, buddy.
gosh! Look at that. Now, does he like is he more the cuddler, or is that?
He kind of does his own thing. The Newfie, he thinks he's a lap dog, and he weighs
That's
140 pounds.
He's 140.
Yeah,
So what's the Newfie's name?
The Newfie's name is Cannon.
Cannon. Okay.
Yeah.
You paused. I didn't know if it was like a name that you weren't allowed to say on Facebook or something. You're like, It's
No,
canon.
because I was
Okay.
thinking we had a Saint Bernard named Harley.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I saw
sometimes
you.
I think it's an age
Something was,
thing.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Sometimes,
like
sometimes
my mom is a little and gone for a while.
yeah, and you're wondering why they don't wonder why these. Well, cool. Oh, I but hey, guys, again,
I don't know if I think we're losing. Did we lose him?
bath water is running.
So I don't know if
One of the two is.
okay. Yeah, so I think well, it's been fun if you hear me. It's been a great time.
Tim, Heather, thank you. Cannon, is it Bruce? See, now I'm struggling to remember the dogs' names. Anyway, the entire Kaufman family, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. And there's just gosh, guys, there's so much stuff for you to just, if someone goes through this video and you're watching it and you got to this point, and there's notes that you have or there's stuff that really stands out to you, can you help us out as a community and share that in your comments section? If there's something that stood out to you tonight, can you just capture that in a couple sentences and share this video? You do not understand the ripple effect that it has. We had over 5,000 people watch the last time the Kaufmans were on. We had so many people each week with whoever we have on this program talking about how they're inspired in different ways to consider change. And this is about health, but it's also about rewriting your story in all sorts of different ways. And so I really want to continue to remind you guys of that. It's easy to look at Heather and Tim and to listen to what they're saying and lose perspective on where they came from. And if you don't know where they came from, watch their first broadcast. We have the link we put in this thread. You'll see it. It was episode, was it 5? I believe it was, something like that. Episode 5. And they tell their story in detail. Heather tells hers and Tim tells his, and we really, really get into that. But don't forget where they came from. They have lost collectively over 280 pounds, collectively. You heard that right. This is an amazing, amazing couple. But if you're sitting here saying, they can't relate, yes. Actually, you can't relate to all of where they came from is the reality. I can't, you can't. So just an amazing inspiration again to hear these stories. Why do we do this stuff? Because you know what? We want to talk about more than just what do we eat. We want to talk about health in a different way. We want to talk about a message of empowerment, encouragement. We want to inspire you, and that's why we're doing this stuff every Tuesday night. Next week, we're going to have on Bethany, Miss Chard herself. Everyone, it's funny, everyone in the plant-based kingdom has their own thing. Like my friend Daniel is a mango guy. We call him Mango Dan. And I'm a kiwi guy. Like I'm all about the kiwis. Some people are kale, some people are chard. So we're interviewing someone next week who fell in love with chard. And she'll tell you more than just about what she's eating, but also her story. She has an amazing story of transformation. What it's like to go through depression and anxiety, go through suicidal thoughts, and be at a point of just no hope. And some of you are listening right now because you're tuning in because you feel hopeless. And you say, my story isn't that bad, or my story is worse. I don't know where you're at, but the whole reason we do this broadcast is to let you know that you're not alone and to let you know that there is hope. Because the people we interview have been in your shoes. I've been in your shoes. And we're here to let you know that you can change and that empowerment is right around the corner. We talk a lot on this program about plant-based eating. This is not, for me at least, I'm going to tell you right now, I believe a lot in plant-based eating. I can tell you all about it. It's really helped me. But it's not just about the method of how you're going to get there. It's about getting there. So whatever it is that gets you there, to living a more fulfilled life, to being more inspired, to being more encouraged, to rewriting your stories, that's what I'm invested in. I'm invested in seeing that for you guys. And that's what I do this for. So again, I hope you guys have an amazing, amazing night. I'm going to go home and hopefully catch bath time with Antonio. And we have now a 2.5-week-old Isabella, who I get to go spend some time with. It's been a long, long day, and I'm looking forward to spending some time with them. But yeah, it's funny because a long day like this, I get energy from what I do because I love this interview tonight. I love spending time with you guys, and I will look forward to next Tuesday night when we do it again. We're going to be live from LA. We'll tell you more about why that is. We're going to be live from LA next Tuesday night when we do our Facebook Live. There's some big things happening, some big opportunities coming our way. And so we'll be down in LA. We'll tell you more about that next week. And then don't forget, this Thursday night at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is 6 p.m. if you're in the Central Time Zone and 7 if you're in the Eastern Time Zone, we do office hours. So if any of you here tonight want to ask me a question, come back to my office hours. That will be on Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Tune in. I'll go Facebook Live, same thing. Ask your questions. The only difference is it's going to be about you. And like I always say with office hours, it'll be 15 minutes long or it'll be a half hour long. It'll depend on how many people show up and knock on my door. So as they say, come and knock on my door, and I will see you guys on Thursday. Have a great week. Again, it's not the size of the step, it's the direction that counts. Tim said that tonight in as many ways. I say that so often because, again, wherever you're at today, you have the power of making a choice tonight as you go to bed to change your life. And you can get caught up and get overwhelmed in the big change process that it looks like. But just focus on what choice are you going to make tonight as you log off on this broadcast to change your life. Obviously would love for you to join me with the whole Rewriting My Story program. We'll share ways to get in touch with that. But there's so many avenues out there, just as Tim mentioned. It's not about just working with me. It's not about just working with Tim. It's honestly just about change. And there's so many avenues to that. And that is what we care about, is you making the change and knowing that you're worth it, knowing that you can do it. So you guys have a great night. We are signing off. John's got a paper to write. I got kids to bathe, and we all got all kinds of stuff. You guys got stuff to do too. But have a great night, guys. Please be sure to share, like, all that stuff. We appreciate it. And we'll see you next week.